Hello there and welcome to episode 7 of Road to the Draft, your British and Irish Eagles draft podcast, with me, your host, Mik McGivern, as usual, from the full 7 episodes that we've had so far between January and April as we sit on the cusp of draft week. We're under a week away from the draft now. We record this on the Friday. Excited about next Thursday night. I'll be staying up for the draft. I don't think a lot of people will be doing it this year because of where the Eagles are picking at number 32. A lot of people think we might trade back, and you're sitting up and your time's been wasted till 4 or 5 in the morning. Just to trade out would be a horrible outcome, but being a draft head, I'm excited to see where a lot of the other prospects land that I've been watching throughout this college year. So I'm excited for the entire board, not just where the Eagles pick. But of course, the Eagles takes up most of my time, and of course Phil's time. So I've got Phil with me as well, joining me, who you'll be glad to know. You get another voice on the podcast, one that you can understand. Phil, how are you doing this Friday afternoon, mate?
I'm all right, mate. Happy Good Friday. Yeah, we're a week away from the draft now, and yeah, I'm definitely not staying up for it, Mick. Partly because I'm away with work and I've got an exam in the morning. But I know I'm probably going to end up not sleeping and probably watching, like, flicking on my phone in the middle of the night just to see 5-10 minutes of it. But yeah, you're right. Chances of us picking at 32. I mean, I guess I'm hoping that we trade up, I'm curious to see the first 5 picks. Maybe, I don't know. I'm talking myself into it, but I know deep down I can't. So I'm trying to sort of just prepare for being massively behind everyone else.
Yeah, maybe I'll call you if we trade up. The Eagles have traded up and took Abdul Carter. Wake up, Phil! Wake up!
Yeah, if that happens, definitely give me a ring.
That would be some exciting stuff. But yeah, I mean, the draft is always exciting, especially from our GM Howie Roseman, who likes to wheel and deal during this time. This is Howie's time. As every year they say, how does he do it? He's done it again. So for this episode, quickly cover the draft picks. Going to quickly cover some top 30 stuff, and then we'll look at 3 players who have been mocked to the Eagles specifically from around the NFL, some analysts from ESPN, from The Athletic, from Bleacher Report, who those guys think that the Eagles will take at 32. Me and Phil mull those prospects over, and at the end of the podcast, I think we'll do a live mock draft on the PFF mock draft simulator, just to see what it spits out. Maybe it'll spit out something different. We'll talk about it. We'll have a few laughs on the way, I'm sure. So, just going on to the draft picks that we hold, nothing's changed since last week. I'm going to go over old ground. I know you've been listening to these podcasts loyally every single week, listener. You're not just diving in before the draft to cram as much as possible. No, but if you are, we've got a first, second, third, fourth, and 4 fifth-round picks. Moving swiftly on to our top 30 visits. So, I mean, these guys, I think we've found out a lot of these top 30 prospects this year. A lot of them are closely guarded, and you don't find out who's been in the building until post-draft. But there's been a lot of leaks, I should say, this year, and we've discovered at least 25, 26 of the 30 prospects that the Eagles can bring into the building. Those have been, I've written an article about this as well, so you can check that out on our new website. Hey, the launch of our new website, phillysportsinternational.com. Really excited about that. We've loaded it with content, with draft content as well, so you can check that out. Check out who has been in the Eagles building. I've done a little bit of write-up against each prospect, what I think about them, what round I project them to go in. As you know, the Eagles take these 30 visits very seriously, and there's a very good chance that at least one of these guys will be in Midnight Green come Sunday next week. Had to do some gymnastics in my head there. Like the draft's not just one day; it's over multiple days, Mik. So just to give a quick overview of the 30 visits, we've had 4 defensive tackles, 4 defensive ends, 8 offensive line, 6 defensive backs, 2 running backs, and a linebacker so far. So the numbers of the defensive backs is definitely creeping up, Phil. This is something I was talking about earlier today when we're in the Eagles group chat, where we were identifying holes in the Eagles roster, and it wasn't until I really looked at the depth chart and looked at safety, and I thought that's really bad. What are you feeling about safety? Do you think we have to go high in the draft for this position, just because of how stark the need is? We've got Tristan McCollum starting at the moment.
I think there are 2 or 3 decent safety prospects. Obviously, one being Notre Dame's Xavier Watts, and you're right. I think when you put that picture, I think a lot of people, I certainly went, oh yeah, well, I mean, that's how they break down their position between free safety and strong safety. But you've still got Sidney Brown and Reed Blankenship in the building. But yeah, absolutely, we need a safety fairly high. Will we take one in round 1? I think that is just it's always going to be a possibility with Howie. I think he's going to have a couple of prospects rated up, seeing how the board falls, and if it comes to sort of pick 20, maybe the Seahawks in sort of 17, 18 or whatever it is, and he's sort of, his board of players that's still left is still sort of saturated with a couple of safeties in there. Don't get me wrong, I think he'd pull the trigger, but it would have to be, there'd have to be no edges, no value, but no value on the edges at that position, and all the tackles are gone, which I don't think is likely. There's going to be a decent edge or a decent tackle at that point. So, and I feel like you can maybe pick up one in round 2. So I'm thinking sort of the round 2 pick, maybe the round 3 pick, depending on how things fall, is where we're fully likely to pick one up. I think we should pick one up there, and you can still try and pick up your gem sort of in the round 5 picks as well, to see if we can pick one. But I don't think you want to be leaving that position to restock that position to be leaving it until the later round. So I think it'll be sort of a round 2, round 3 pick, but there's a small chance of it being in round 1.
Yeah, like you said, if there's 2 safeties that are graded in round 1 or expected to go in round 1, Malachi Starks being the first who's been in the building. He was in the part of the top 30 visits, so the Eagles obviously have a bit of interest in him, where he falls in the draft and comes all the way down to 32, or how he feels the need to move up. We'll see on draft night. That's an interesting one to watch. The other one would be Mik and Phill from South Carolina, another guy who rose up the draft boards during the off season, between the college season ending and draft season. Done well for himself in the combine. Measurables are out of this world. The guy is just a top athlete. It's exactly what you want in the safety position. So those 2 guys, if they're on the board, could I see how he just going for it because of the value, because they're really great players regardless of their position? I could see it happen, but as you said, there is some guys later on in the draft, like your Xavier Watts or Andrew Mukuba from Texas. I think you like him as well, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Or I think we've had Jalen Reed in the building as well, the Penn State safety, who's projected to go much later on in the draft. He's part of the top 30 visits, so it's definitely a position that the Eagles have in mind for this draft, and someone to pick up and potentially start straight away, or be at least competing in camp against your Sidney Brown or Tristan McCollum, one of these guys, Lewis Seen, who we brought into the practice squad towards the end of the season just past. So interesting in that position, I think. Definitely. So just moving on from our top 30 visits. Again, you can read about all the top 30 visits that have visited the Eagles on our website. Check it out. Put some work in it. Put some effort in it. Would appreciate it. You can put in a comment if you've signed up to the website. Put in a comment put in you can like the post and all that sort of thing. So let's get some draft discussion going. Is what I'm getting at. It's been a bit of a slow off season. Right, so mocks from around the NFL. I have been so far in these Road to the Draft episodes scouted 3 players in each episode typically. This week is no different. However, with a little bit of a twist that I am looking only at players who have been mock drafted to us from draft analysts from the NFL. So our first prospect, Phil, is Donovan Ezeiruaku, the edge from Boston College. He's already an Eagle, so does he move from one Eagle to the other Eagles? I quite like that. We spoke a little bit about him last week, I think, when we spoke to Gail. Gail quite liked the look of Donovan Ezeiruaku. Another guy who was in for a top 30 visit. Now, he's been mocked to us by Dane Brugler from The Athletic in his monster mock. He did a full draft, a full 7-round mock draft. I don't know how these guys find the time for this sort of thing.
They get paid for it, Mick.
Well, yeah, we do this on the part time, mate. So I'm trying to do this while shuffling 3 kids and a job about. So take that, Dane, from The Athletic. And the Ringer's Danny Kelly as well. So he also mocked Donovan Ezeiruaku from Boston College. As I said, he's an athlete. He's played wide receiver, tight end, and defensive end when he was in high school, as well as multiple track and field sports. So this guy has a relentless motor. He's fast and has all the sort of measurables that you would expect from the position. And he's young. He'll only be 21 to begin his rookie season. So love that. Love a bit of have some of that in the mold, because this is a really young defensive line, Phil. We looked at that a little bit earlier today. I was just looking up and down the roster to see who the veteran is on the defensive line, and it's Bryce Huff.
What a veteran to have in the building.
That scares me. But looking up and down the line, edge is definitely a considerable position of need. We've got Nolan Smith. We've brought in Aziz Ujulari. Easy for me to say. But there's still holes there. I mean, we lost Josh Sweat, losing Braden Graham to retirement. Definitely a position that we need to fill. Ezeiruaku, he was a rotational player at Boston College in his freshman year, 3-year starter thereafter, so he's got the chops, he's done the reps. Accumulated 59 pressures, including 14 sacks last year, which is highly impressive, but it is a bit of a step up from the previous year. He only had 2 sacks the previous year, so that was a massive production increase in his senior year at Boston College in the ACC. So, what's your immediate thoughts on Ezeiruaku, Phil? How do you feel about the Eagles drafting him potentially at 32 overall after hearing everything that I've sort of said about him?
I think it's probably the most likely pick for the Eagles edge position. I feel like I said, we had this discussion, and speaking with Liam. Liam's had dead set on us going edge, and I don't dispute that it's probably the most likely one to go for. But it just depends on who's there, and if he's there at 32, or is he worth trading up for? I'm not sure, because in this draft, like you said, there's quite a few edge players available in the first and second round. Just how he's not the sort of person to go up unless he absolutely definitely wants that player. He's not going to go up just because he's going to wait and see what falls to him, and more likely to move back. So, is he going to make it to 32, Mick? I feel like every time I've seen him mocked, he's going in the 20s, maybe even a little bit earlier, depending on how random the mock is. But I don't necessarily think he's going to be there. But I feel like if he falls to 32, that's our pick. Personally, I feel like it's going to end up. It feels all pointing towards that direction to get to pick 32, to pick Ezeiruaku. Sorry, and just not overthink it. Keep it simple, as we always say. the Nolan Smith sort of pick was just like, again, because he fell a little bit in the mock drafts that year. It feels like that's kind of going to be the same situation again. That if there's a reason why he's dropped, how he's just going to pull the trigger on him and not overthink it and then move on to round 2. That's what they've got. But the stats that you read out for the guy, and I do like versatility. I like the fact that he's played loads of different positions. It means he's good enough to play those different positions, and he's not just sort of settling for whatever position he seems to have the best chance of getting into the NFL for. He's young. He's had a great season. He's got confidence. You're right. He's only, his previous year was quite quiet, but like you said, because he's young, you can argue that this, last season was the first of many great seasons. And I think it seems like a very simple decision to make. It's just people saying, sorry, it's a little bit of a tangent. I keep hearing people saying like this draft seems pretty boring. This, we don't know what's going to happen. There's not that many blue chip players, not much excitement in the top picks. But I found it so hard to figure out. I think mock drafts have been all over the place. I don't know about for you, but
yeah,
it's almost like it's kind of exciting in the fact that isn't much obvious excitement. It's kind of people saying it's not been that good. But then the years what they're referring to as being exciting have been quite processional, and it's like, well, the top 10 players have been pretty sort of set in stone. There's not really much deviation, 1 or 2 different picks. It feels like this year, outside of the top 4 picks, it's anyone's guess, and there's been some quite nice little quarterback needs. Like the Saints have now popped up. I'm speaking about your Shedeur Sanders over 8.5 positional bet. Saints picking at 9. I feel like Vegas seemed to know something before.
Worried about it.
But I'm quite excited about this draft in the sense that I know that when I wake up to watch the highlights through, it's going to be an interesting watch, and there's not going to be like, right, I'll just skip halfway through because we know what's going to happen in the first half of the picks. But yeah, sorry, just to go off on a bit of a tangent here, I'd be happy with Ezeiruaku.
I think you're right. I think you're right, mate. Like, I've so many mock drafts that I've watched, read, listened to through podcast media. Nobody knows. Like this draft seems wide open from 15 overall to I don't know 45 overall, 50 overall. It's just wide open. I've seen players go in the first round in some mocks that are nowhere near the first round. In other mocks, it's just nobody has a clue what the franchises are thinking, what the league thinks of these guys, which is a lot separate from a lot of the draft heads. Like yourself on draft day, there's always a surprise. There's always something that just comes out of nowhere. Like Bo Nix last year, no one saw that coming. No one saw the Falcons taking Michael Penix Jr. either. Although I loved him as a prospect coming out of Washington, he was absolutely fantastic that college year. So I wasn't fully surprised. I was surprised at the team and the position, but I wasn't surprised that he was taken in the first round. So yeah, I think some movement could also happen in this draft in the first round. I'm sure every team at the moment still holds their own pick in the first round, so you'd expect some sort of trade or movement at some point. Who knows? Maybe the Giants move up or down, or like you said, maybe someone comes up for Shedeur, maybe they don't, maybe he falls all the way down. I saw a mock he fell, and someone traded with us at 32 to come up and take him in the first round. I think it was Cleveland, actually. Cleveland came up and took Shedeur with the 32nd pick, and we took Cleveland's pick and some other later on picks, which I don't think he'll fall that far. In particular, I mean, I put the bet on that he'll be in the first 8 picks of this draft, but the odds on that are widening, shall I say, so it's not looking good for me, but I'm still confident. But like other, like you say, teams stretch for some players, like for high value players like quarterbacks the highest value, and you look at Jackson Dart, you look at Jalen Milroe. These are guys who are not really projected in the first round. I said a couple of months ago now, I think if there's going to be a third quarterback going in the first round, it's going to be Jackson Dart. And I've seen mocks of him going as high as 9th to the Saints, I think. I'm pretty sure I saw in one mock draft, and I thought that's rich. That's really rich. But I think we're getting to the point of mock draft season where people are getting a bit bored with their mock drafts, so they're just throwing in anything out there. So It gets a bit silly as we get even closer to the draft, because I'm guilty of doing it too, Phil. I mean, one of the mock drafts I done for Gale last week, I thought I'm just going to do something different because I'm sick of doing the same old stuff all the time.
Yeah, I get that. I feel like I get pigeonholed into certain players mainly because my knowledge isn't as broad as yours. And it's like the consistent players Scouten keeps being there at 34, 30, 32, but sort of like, a couple players down, not the next player available. And I just picked that guy, and I feel like that's just the way the universe is pointing me. But I get people just want a bit of excitement. They get mock draft itis and just get absolutely obsessed and get a fever and just start drafting random players. But I guess you could say that if Shadur does go in the top 8, that the Saints are now a definitely needy quarterback team. So I can see that being a situation. The Saints might look to maybe trade back, but do they want to take that risk? And they've only got Spencer Rattler, sort of a second-year guy. He's had a couple of starts, and
Yikes!
And the I can never remember the guy's name, but the backup quarterback that they've got in there that's sort of half decent, but you've got nothing in there that you want to be going into a season with. So you don't want to be waiting and past 9. If you're going to need a quarterback, just take it. Very much like you said, Penix and Bo Nix last year were taken way higher than people expected, but both of them are looking like they're going to be pretty tasty quarterbacks this season. So you can argue that. And Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back situation the year before, taking them at 12 or whatever it was overall, we were laughing at the Lions, and then he turns out to be one of the best running backs in the league. I think it's just, there are craziness out there, but I think it's exciting. It's a good time of year. I do get into it. Just I'm just keen to get on with it now and get the picks rolling.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking about getting on with it, I think I'll get on with the podcast as well. It was a good tangent to go on, though. I really like that sort of side to it. So the second prospect that we're going to talk about today, Phil, is another edge rusher. This time, James Pearce Jr., the edge from Tennessee. He has been mocked to us by the Bleacher Report and NFL.com, Mark Ross and Ryan Wilson, respectively. So James Pearce Jr. Yeah, this was a surprise to me when I was doing some googling this morning just to see what analysts are doing, what they're thinking. It was a shock to me to see James Pearce Jr.'s name on more than one mock draft to the Eagles, because in my opinion, Phil, James Pearce is edge 2 in this draft, or edge 3. Mike Green, James Pearce, I think they could be side by side. Reason being, Mike Green maybe gets a little bit of knock because because of who he plays for. I know you draft the player, not the helmet, but I mean he's been playing for Marshall, the Herd, not the stiffest of competitions that he's faced every week in that division. But James Pearce at Tennessee certainly has, and this guy, like, he's got the build, he's got everything. He's got all the tools that you would expect from an edge rusher. He's the prototypical guy, 6'5", 248 pounds. He's explosive. He's long. He's bend for days. He's a sharp bend, and he's smooth. Everything about him is smooth. It's everything you want in an edge. 2-year starter at the Vols, and made first team All SEC in both 2023 and 2024. As I said, the guy's an animal. He's an athlete. He ran a 4.47 at the combine with a 1.56 second split. That puts him in the 90th percentile at the position, in his position group, in terms of combine measurables. That's insane. That's the kind of guy who, yeah, you take. That's a top 10 pick. Like, the things that I'm saying, that sounds like a top 10 pick or a top 15 pick. How has this guy dropped to 32 overall? I mean, the guy's racked up 55 total pressures in 2024. 55 pressures, that's huge for a college athlete who only plays 13 games a season, had 8 sacks. And it's not just 1 year of production. Like Ezeiruaku had, he's done it consistently over multiple years. So in 2023, he had 52 pressures and 13 sacks on that season. And be 21 years old to start his rookie season. He's a young guy. But here's the kicker, Phil. This is the part why he's dropping to 32, why he's falling down the draft boards and all these mocks. Character concerns. Now, he was arrested for speeding and driving with a suspended license, and there's other character concerns regarding coaching. It's been said that he's been difficult to coach. Some players, some teammates of his have said, they don't particularly enjoy playing with him. Whether that's an attitude problem on his side, or maybe he just wants to compete every day. He's got no time for making friends at Tennessee. He just wants to go out and ball, and he has been doing it. The production's there. Is he coachable? Do we have the people in the building to cool this guy down? What do you think, Phil? You're on mute, son. There you go.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. What you're alluding to there in terms of the character concerns, because there's obviously a big thing going on, and I know it's not specifically that; it's more about domestic abuse. That Harry sort of particularly highlighted that they won't entertain any people that are sort of involved in domestic abuse. But in general, I feel like it does sort of expand out from that. They're just not going to say we don't want anybody who's not squeaky clean, because then you're ruling out 90% of the board probably. Everyone's got some sort of skeletons in their closet. So as for what it was, speeding, suspended license, character concerns is difficult. The coaching side of stuff, I think if they pick him, it will be because they've got the people. They know they've got the people to deal with it. You know, you've got Big Dom for one, who's kind of he's the master stroke of getting anybody to sort of or to investigate. So you guarantee Big Dom knows every single thing about this guy. If someone's coming up to him saying we might draft this guy, he's like, here's Big Dom reaches into his desk, pulls out a wad of papers 6 inches thick, and just goes, boom, what do you want to know about him? But on the more serious side, you know that he's the sort of person who can handle that. So if there are any character concerns, he'll be the one keeping an eye on him and looking out for him and making sure he doesn't get into too much trouble. Hopefully, obviously, you can't be with him all the time, and it's not going to be perfect. As for the coaching, yeah, you've kind of highlighted it in very two contrasting ways there. Yeah, on one hand, you can kind of go, oh, I don't want a guy that people don't like. You know, everyone's seen Draft Day movie. Sorry. You know, no one wants to be Bo Callahan. Do they?
Did he go to his party?
Do they go to? Did his teammates go to his birthday party? Did he know there was $100 bill taped to the back of the playbook? All things that we laugh at, but probably are what still goes on. But I feel like Vic Fangio is shown this season that he's got the best out of all the players that we had doubts over last season. So from a coaching perspective, and he's a no nonsense guy as well. I can't see someone like James Pearce Jr. with all the concerns that other teams may have. We all look at it and go, look, can we get the best out of this guy, and can we deal with the issues? And I think the answer for the Eagles would be yes. That's the benefit. We apply the same sort of logic to later round tackles. Yeah, but didn't Jeff Stoutland can get the best out of him? And I think the same sort of principle will apply here. And the Eagles won't select him purely because of the stats that you mentioned. They'll pick him because of the stats and the fact that he's dropped them. We all know how he loves a player that's fallen, and to get the best out of him, a la Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter. Those classic examples, it's sort of right up Howie's street. So I can see that if convincing myself, but you're convincing me as well with your notes as well, Mick, that if he's there, and I know, was it Liam's mock draft earlier on that you guys get to see later, he's got him falling, picking him up in round 1, I think it was. So you're convincing me, and I feel like I kind of like, as much as we on one hand you like character concerns, do we want to take a chance on this guy? But then, like you said, on the flip side, if the guy is just super focused and not really interested in making friends, that's a positive as well way to look at it. And you kind of go, actually, we want guys, who are determined to get to the top. And once he gets to the top, that's when he'll sort of really fulfill his potential. And we don't want a guy who's coming in the building. We don't want, a guy who's coming in to make friends and have a good time on his rookie contract and then never be seen again. We want a guy who's coming in, set the world alight, and if he makes a couple of friends later on, great. But it's about what's important, I suppose.
Yeah. that's what the Eagles have always been about, competitors. That's why they do the basketball thing, and like they set up little games to see how competitive these guys are, like to see their competitive spirit, if they really love the game or not. So I mean, well, that's why they bring them in for visits. They've not brought James Pearce in for a visit, potentially because they're expecting to go a lot higher than where the Eagles are picking at the moment. I do think that he will go higher. I think a team will take a chance on him, but if they don't, I will be delighted if the Eagles manage to pick him up. I think you're right. The reward is much greater than the risk. With James Pearce, what was I going to say? I've just lost my train of thought. But yeah, he's just a phenomenal athlete. Would be lucky to pick him up, but it feels a lot like that's what I was going to say. It feels a lot like the Jalen Carter thing from a couple of years ago, where it was all character concerns because he should have been like top 3 pick in that draft, and he fell to 9 to us. Ridiculous. I mean, thank you, but um, that allowed us to pick up, a blue chip player where we had no business picking him up, and now, yeah, he's Super Bowl champion, Jalen Carter, and I can't wait to see what he does in his third season. Um, Speaking about Jalen Carter, actually, that's a good segue to speak about our next prospect, who may be playing alongside Jalen Carter on that defensive interior. Now, Ben Stansig from The Athletic and Chad Reuter from NFL and Mel Kiper from ESPN, so 3 analysts I found this morning when I was trawling through the mock drafts, selected this particular defensive tackle, Walter Nolen from Ole Miss, a 6'3", 300-pound monster from Ole Miss. Again, another one I was quite surprised at because I think Walter Nolen, me speaking personally, I've got Walter Nolen a lot higher than this. As you alluded to earlier, Phil, this draft seems upside down across the board. Just nobody knows where these guys are really going to fall to because I have Walter Nolen as defensive tackle, defensive tackle 2 behind Mason Graham. And this is a bit of a theme here. I had James Pearce being edge 2, and I've got Walter Nolen being defensive tackle 2. So maybe we have no chance of these guys, but the analysts think we do. So we'll speak a little about them. But this guy, again, fabulous prospect. He's played his first 2 seasons at Texas A&M, and then transferred to Ole Miss in 2024, where he started 13 games and made first team All SEC. Depending on who you listen to, the SEC is supposed to be the best college division. So if he's balling out in the SEC, he's got to be a blue chip player. He's a violent 3-tech who executes with power and violence in equal measure. This guy just wrecks the interior, basically. He recorded 34 pressures, including 6 sacks in 2024, and 17 pressures, including 7 sacks the previous year in 2023. Which is impressive numbers coming from the interior on, remember, the college season is a lot shorter than the NFL season, so try not to compare sack numbers against the NFL sack numbers because it doesn't quite compute that way. But Ole Miss had quite a difficult schedule in the SEC, so it wasn't as if he was up against, offensive tackle 24 from Bumfuck Nation. It's the best against the best in the SEC. So again, this guy is pretty impressive CV. Going from 2 programs, Texas A&M is a great program. Ole Miss is another great program. Expected Ole Miss to do a bit more this last college season, but they fell a bit short. Jackson Dart, who's their quarterback, he'll be. We spoke about him a little bit earlier. We expect him to go possibly in the first round. Back to my notes. So Walter Nolen, he's got versatility on the line as well. So he's played significant snaps at 5-tech. So that's on the outside shoulder of the tackle or wider. So he's not just at interior. He has a little bit of versatility to play either inside or outside, which gives defensive line coach or Vic Fangio a bit of optionality to swap out. For playing in the base 3 or base 4. He can play in both. which really helps us with our defensive line rotation. He had a dominant week at the Senior Bowl as well, and just he balled out in Senior Bowl week. He was just he was wrecking shop, I'm afraid. So Phil, what do you think of Walter Nolen? Do you, if you were given the option of Walter Nolen or the other two guys, all three guys are on the board.
Right.
Who are you taking?
It feels like taking a defensive tackle in the first round is just like so blasé now. It's like I'm sick of it. But it, I feel like to give Liam his flowers. Edge is definitely probably one of the greatest needs we have. DT isn't as much, although it's a nice little need, and probably going to echo and copy what I've just said about the previous two, is that this draft is wild, and also the difference is the Eagles are a team, and the way that the Eagles have approached the offseason that gives us confidence no matter what is that whilst we have needs, we are also putting ourselves in a position where we have the luxury of taking pretty much whoever we feel like at that particular moment. So we have got multiple options, and if a player like Walter Nolen is there at 32, which, like I said, is incredibly unlikely, being the second, your DT2 on the board, it's not going to happen. But if it's there, I don't think anyone will blame Howie for just stacking the defensive trenches yet again, because we know he'll pick up players. Whatever he doesn't get in the first round, he will sweep up in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe later on, because no doubt Howie will not want to pick 4 picks in the space of, what was it, 8 picks? I think it's the 5th round picks were all about 8 picks apart, 1, 6, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 8, or something like that. So I feel like the answer to the question is we don't fucking know, because for good reasons. The Eagles are in good positions to basically pick whoever they want, to see who falls, and that's probably the best. It seems so simple, Mik, when you think about it. The approach, like, make sure put yourself in a position where you don't desperately need anything, and then you'll probably draft the best you've ever drafted in your life. And you look at teams time and time again, the teams that are going into a draft absolutely dying for a quarterback or dying for an offensive lineman or something like that. They have to pick whatever offensive lineman is that sat there. So you pick, the teams that have picked, like the Chargers a couple of years ago, and the Giants and the Cowboys, it's all picked offensive linemen in the last sort of 3-4 years. And some of them have been in positions where they've been desperate, so they've had to pick the guy. So they might be hoping for a player like Walter Nolen, but they're actually going to be picking DT7, DT8, because they have to pick a DT, and they put themselves into a position where they have no choice but to do that, where the Eagles are not. So that's what's fun, I think, about this Eagles draft. Despite picking at 32, despite not expecting any of these players to come here, they could be there because we know that other teams have put themselves into positions where people are going to do crazy things, and we saw it last year with the cornerback situation. No one in our right mind. We were talking about Quinyon Mitchell in the same way we're talking about these edge rushers and this defensive tackle now. Is that they're not going to be there. We were talking Cooper DeJean. That was our hope.
Yeah.
And we got him as our second pick, and we got him as our second cornerback off the draft because Quinyon Mitchell fell.
Ridiculous.
And I said it that year as well, that I do wonder. We talk about Howie's prowess, but how far does his influence go? And he, on all the top 30 visits, although we still pick from the top 30 visits, he's bringing in people to make people think what the Eagles are going to pick. He's trying to give the indication top 30 visits are just another tool for Howie to tell the world or exactly what he wants them to think. And there was a massive slide in DBs that draft, and because I think there was a strong indication that we were going to go for a sort of a trench position as our first pick. And I feel like that has an influence on the draft as well. That's what, it's just, like I said, it's another tool for Howie to sort of manipulate, or hopefully manipulate other GMs by going, the Eagles, we have to pick DT7 here because the Eagles are definitely going to pick a DT, when actually they're sat there going, well, look at the safety 1, safety 2, safety 3 still on the board, so we'll just pick them if they fall. All right, someone else is going to pick a safety. We'll just wait for the edge rushers. We'll just wait for this. We'll do for that. Or if Howie sees, like, someone like Walter Nolen reaching into the 20s, he could just as easily go, here's a couple of 5th round picks. Let's move up eight or 9 spaces and be done with it. It's going to be great. Problem lies therein is full well on Friday morning, Saturday morning, the Eagles fan base is going to be absolutely at each other because there's just so many options. There's not going to be a consensus that this guy was the right thing to do. There's going to be people out there who've had their guy since day one, and it's going to be fascinating watching the WhatsApp group just clamber over each other to sort of defend the pick, to argue the pick, to call Howie a genius, to say Howie should be on the hot seat. It's going to be great fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great position to be in, as you say. We've just off the back of a championship. It's not like we have to get this draft right, to keep the championship window open or anything like. It's not that. We're supplementing our roster at this point, so yeah, I don't think we can go wrong. I don't think anyone can really give Howie any shit basically in this draft, regardless who he goes for. We just won a chip. You're just going to throw his championship ring in your face. Speaking of, I can't wait to see what the championship ring looks like. That should happen around June time. Around June.
Yeah, just
June.
after the release, I think it usually comes out.
Yeah,
they've got to fill the months in between the draft and pre-season starting. So that's another little thing that the NFL can leak out.
We're in the content game as well, Phil, so we'll be doing the same. We'll be doing the same, friend. Filling the website with lots of news and opinions, so that'll be fun for
random thoughts and musings.
yeah. It's all good. It's all great. Right, so I'll quickly move on now. The time is of the essence, and I'll just present my screen, and we'll quickly do a mock draft. How many rounds do you feel like doing today, Phil? Just a couple.
Well, we only need to do 5 unless you're planning on trading back. But
no, I'm not planning on putting any trades into this. I don't want to overcomplicate it.
But just do the full 7 round. We're only obviously end up doing up to round 5 anyway. Let's just see how we get on.
Yeah. All right. Just let me know if that's came through.
Yeah, it's all good.
Came through. That's good. Lovely. Right. So, sorry, how many rounds did you say?
Well, 5 or 7 makes no difference. We only have picks up to round 5, so leave it at 5.
No, just in case you only wanted to do 3 rounds or something.
No, that's fine.
Right, so we'll choose the world champions, and 5 rounds. We'll turn it to fast, just so we can see who's going in the first round. I think you can speed it up as you go, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
So we'll slow it down a little bit. Do you tinker with the settings, Phil?
I don't like one slider being on one side or the other, so I'd probably go like another couple notches in on the not in the middle, still stay towards public. Yeah, about there, that'd be fine. Just because I don't like the idea of PFF just being completely ignored. It's like they obviously got some idea what the board would be like, but yeah.
What do the public know? Yeah, the public don't know anything.
The general public are idiots.
All right, let's enter the draft then. So, start the draft.
Don't fancy
like
trying to pick number 1 then?
Pick number 1. I wonder what it would cost, just out of interest. It's 32. We'll need to give him a round 1, another round 1. Oh, it doesn't. Oh, I missed out 1. Still.
It's not even moving the needle with 3 first round picks. I'm not surprised.
No,
yeah, a couple of seconds.
We'd have to give up so much. Oh my goodness. We would need to sell that. There you go. Wow. That's scary.
That's like some draft day shit right there.
Yeah, anyway.
I want all my second picks, all of them.
Oh, here we go. I've got Membuka, Will Johnson, Jalen Walker. I'll quickly cover some of these. Walter Nolen's gone, yeah. James Pearce is gone.
Skelton's gone.
When they go, maybe I should have looked at trade prospects, because some of the guys went a bit later than I expected, and maybe we could have traded up with someone like the Vikings, who I think are don't have a lot of draft capital in this draft. Who maybe
when are the Vikings picking, sorry?
The Vikings are picking at 24, I believe. Yep, 24. They took a running back. I'm surprised at that.
But in the interest of we got stick or twist, we can restart and pause it at 20 and see what we can do, or we can just carry on and see what we've got.
We'll just carry on. It's just a bit of fun at the end of the day. I don't take these too seriously. Yeah, a lot of the guys who's expect to go have gone. The three guys who we spoke about on the podcast today have gone. So Walter Nolen went at pick 18 to the Seahawks. Ezeiruaku went at pick 19, the very next pick, to Tampa Bay. And I've definitely seen James Pearce come off at 28. What a slide for Pearce for the Lions. Can you imagine a
I
duo
think
of
that would have been
Pearce?
a definite trade up. I think that's exactly probably the situation I'm on about. If he was sat there at 24, Harry would be trying the phone, I think, to move
Yeah,
up.
I think so too. I think so too. And then Nick Scurton went to the Bills as well. It's another player who's usually mocked to the Eagles. Josh Connerly went the tackle from Oregon. Again, someone who's normally drafted to the Eagles has went the pick before to the Chiefs. So we're
Who've
left
got
with,
them?
who have we got? We've got Omar Norman
Oh,
Lott.
Kevin Winston Jr. That's a
Gray Zabel is a popular option as well. This is a tackle from North Dakota State. He's projects more as a guard at the NFL. He could definitely slot straight into that open right guard position and start straight away. I'm sure that's a decent prospect who I've seen in various mocks going a lot higher than 32. Trey Amos, who we had in the building as part of the top 30 visits as well. Kevin Winston, that would be one of the safety prospects. There's two going in this draft from Penn State. The other, Jalen Reed, who we've had in the building from top 30 visits. BMO from Notre Dame is still on the board. What's Landon Jackson? Landon Jackson, I do like a Landon Jackson. The Edge from Arkansas. I previewed him in episode 1. If you've been listening to the podcast so far, throughout the entire Road to the Draft series, Landon Jackson was one who I identified almost immediately. His draft stocks fell a little bit. He's more projected for a second round pick, but high in the second round, not where we're picking at the very end of the second round. So, Phil, how are you feeling about this board at the moment in the first round? And is there anyone that's jumping out to you? Derek Harmon, that's another one, defensive interior, who I've seen on many mocks going in the top 32. His ADP there is 31.9, so that's right on point. Here, Maxwell Hairston, again, another cornerback. He's been in the building. Sorry, I know I just asked you a question and I'm talking over you. Shadur Sanders is still on the board. If you want to take a quarterback, I'm not going to. I'm not going to trade out of this round. Unfortunately, we're going to stand and pick. What do you feel? What do you fancy?
Yeah, you're probably right. We probably would have been a good trade up back option if Shadur still on the board for a QB needy team that's gambled and waited. Definitely. I think it's, for me, I think we still need to be looking at edge or tackle here. Zabel, what's his tackle caliber pedigree? Like you say, he's predominantly a guard, but I think the only reason they take a tackle in the first round is if there's a long-term plan for succession with Lane Johnson. Otherwise, there's no point wasting such high capital on a slotting guard. Because we've lost Becton, why get rid of Becton if you're just going to draft your first round guard?
Yeah, it snaps at left tackle. He played predominantly the entire year. SDSU at tackle last year. The year before, he was right tackle. He's played up and down the line, to be honest, over the last 3 years at North Dakota State. As I said, he's someone you could plug in straight away to, as you said, 5-position lineman who brings everything but a arm length. So he's been put down on his arm length a bit, like Will Campbell has as well.
I think.
Yep.
I think because, like I said, about the reasons why if I go edge or if I go tackle, it seems to be so far as either the draft board goes edge heavy or tackle heavy, and I feel like there's the 3 edge players that we were looking at are all gone. So are we going to reach for the next edge available, or do we kind of go, right, well, we've got a guy who can slot in, maybe one day be a Lane Johnson replacement, but can also solve a need at guard for us this season? Seems quite a valuable pick to me, Mick. I'm kind of leaning towards that at the moment. There's a couple of safeties, but I feel like you've made the case. I'm reading his bio. I feel like if that is the case and all those edge prospects are gone, then there's no point reaching for a guy when you've got a guard tackle guy who can solve a need. So that's my shout. But don't feel free to override.
No, I like the pick. I think let's just go for it. Nobody's going to kill us. Don't worry. Right, so we'll move on. Guys are coming off the board. Warrior was still on the board. I didn't realise that. He must have been a lot further back on the mock draft machine. I think PFF have him ranked somewhere ridiculous, like in the 60s.
Right.
Which is why he wouldn't have been one of the prospects on our board, or not obvious prospect on our board. So here we are picking at pick 64. So we've taken a tackle. We'd probably maybe look at the defensive line, see what edges are still available, or do you think we just look
Just
down?
scroll down casually, see what we got. Arroyo.
Arroyo from the tight end from Miami. I think it was it Gale? Someone put me off him. I actually quite liked him, and someone put me off him, and now I don't like him.
I think it was Gale in the last pod.
Was it Gale? Yeah. I've totally went off him now. I don't want him. Here we go. We've got Makuba, who's a popular choice, the safety from Texas.
He's going to be a strong shout for me now, especially we've gone tackle. I feel like safety or edge is
Mason
the
Taylor, the tight end from LSU. I saw him mocked in the first round in a mock draft recently. As I say, this draft is all over the place. Terrence Ferguson, that's another good tight end that I quite like. Jack Sawyer, Ohio State. He had a good season. Captain for Ohio State. Run back. Made some huge plays this season. Huge plays. Another really good player. Anthony Bell. So, position wise, Phil, you think we should be looking at the trenches or somewhere?
Well, we didn't pick up an edge when it's probably one of our greatest needs. I feel like we need to focus on.
Yeah, I like the edge from UCLA, Ole Miss. I think we had him in top 30, or we spoke to him at the combine, one or the other.
Yeah.
Another prospect I think that the Eagles like the look of. It seems about right at the draft position that we're in just now. I think we'll just take him.
Yeah, we did have him for a top 30 visit, Oladejo.
Yeah, there you go. So that fills a bit of a need as well.
So he's projected round 4 according to your notes, though. So
what's that? Sorry.
Projected round 4.
Well, what do I know, Phil? The PFF mock draft machine. As I said, the PFF mock draft machine seems really upside down this year. So we move on to round 396 overall. We've got Kyle Williams, wide receiver from Washington State. Don't know how you feel about drafting a wide receiver early in this draft.
I'm reluctant to do it, to be honest.
Reluctant, yeah. Lathan Ransom, Charles Grant, tackle. We've got another edge for Louisville. Harold Fannin is another popular one, and a player I spoke about on episode 1, I believe, of Road to the Draft. Tight end for Bowling Green, who had huge, massive production for Bowling Green over this last year. I think he had the most yards for any receiver across the college year.
I'm a sucker for this pick, I'm not going to lie.
You're a sucker for this pick. I like him as well. I've taken him in multiple mock drafts as well, and it's
I know the guy from what's the other tight end that is tending to fall around this area or a little bit later. I've seen a lot of picks, a lot of other mock drafts picking like when they pick a tight end slightly later. Yeah, there's not him.
Is it Brennan still from Clemson or
no? Is it Colorado?
Mason Taylor? Colorado.
No. Let me just.
You think about Gunnar Helm from Texas or
Jackson Hawes?
Harrison Ferguson,
not Colorado.
Oh, the Yellow Jackets. Yeah. Hawes is a good prospect, I think.
So I'm happy to sort of miss out on Fannin if we want to get tight end later, but because it all depends on what. So we've got an edge, so we need to look at safety around here as well. So what talks about the safeties that are available at this point. Are they worth taking, or have we missed the boat?
We've got Lathan Ransom here from Ohio State. If you want an Ohio State safety, look no further than Caleb Downs. He's one of the best players in college football just now. He's going to be a top 10 draft pick coming very soon. I don't think Lathan Ransom's really worth it to me. I don't really fancy him here. RJ Mickens from Clemson, another one. Again, I think a lot of the safeties have come off.
I don't think we
the
need
board
to
already.
overthink it.
Yeah,
I think let's try and let's go for Fannin.
Fannin. I think you're right. I would love to pick up Harold Fannin Jr. at this point in the draft. All right, so more guys are starting to come off the board as we move down to the 4th round on day 3 of the draft, which is appreciated that starts on a reasonable time.
Yeah, we can catch all our 5th round
Saturday.
picks fairly early on.
Absolutely. All right, so in the 4th round, we've got. I know you said you were steering away from wide receivers in the draft, Phil. Isaac Tesla from Arkansas is there. That's one that Gail was talking about last week. If you recall, he's one of his sleepers in this draft, so it's one to bear in mind. Billy Bowman Jr., safety from Oklahoma, could be a decent pickup this late in the draft. I think if you're moving into the sort of round 4, round 5, I don't think a lot of the guys, unless they've fallen down the draft board, that you can expect too much from these sort of picks. I mean, over recent history, I don't think we've done terribly well in the 4th and 5th rounds. It's sort of just been throwing darts and see what sticks. But Billy Bowman is an interesting one. Kobe Bryant is again another interesting one. Cornerback from Kansas State. Ty Robinson is a popular one as well. I've seen in a lot of mocks. I don't know if either
I
you
picked him in my mocks earlier actually.
Or Liam have picked him up.
I picked him at 161.
161. So this is a bit too early then for your taste, Phil.
Bit of Virginia Tech edge there. Nick, was that? Power Island. I'd like to say I know anything about the Virginia Tech prospects, but there seem to be a lot more in this draft and a lot higher up than normal. So they had a good season.
A few quarterbacks I've noticed still on the board here. Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers. Interestingly, Quinn Ewers, he was, the number 1 college, high school recruit. Went to OSU, transferred to Texas, and has fallen off a cliff a bit. He was supposed to be a 101 quarterback, but you've got to do it. You've got to do it on the field, and unfortunately didn't quite reach the heights that he should have. Someone's going to pick him up probably in the 3rd or 4th.
Let's look at that Tesla guy, because I feel like it's one of those needs. I feel like when like you said earlier, going for a bit out there and a bit of difference. We've got edge, tackle, tight end, wide receiver. It's a bit of something different. So I'm happy if you want to go for wide receiver, unless there's a safety that jumps out to you.
Well, I was just about to come on to Tyler Barron, who's the edge from Miami. We've had him in the building for the top 30 prospects, so it's a guy that the Eagles are looking at. Potential guy that we could, we could develop.
See if he's there in the next picks.
Oh, you want to hold on and see if he's there in the next round?
Do you reckon
I like that you live on the edge. It's like, okay, let's take a wide receiver. We'll solve our wide receiver 3 problem. We'll take Isaac Tesla and see how we go.
I feel like we've got 4 picks. Let's just see what we get for the last sort of few dart throws.
My man Mitch Evans just went to the Cowboys. I hate to see that. I absolutely hate to see that. I hate seeing Notre Dame guys going to teams that I hate.
So Ty Robinson's there, and the guy that we were just speaking about from Miami. I don't think he went, did he?
The defensive interior from Florida is still here.
I'll let you take the lead on this one, these few, because you'll know way more about these. I'm just going to be throwing darts at this point. But Ty Robinson's there, just
Yeah.
and don't forget we've
Yeah,
got
the
like
corners, just
4
defensive
picks in the
interior.
next 7.
No,
So
I do like that pick. I think Ty Robinson is a good pick at this point in the draft, as you say, 5th round, defensive interior. I mean, we took Moro Juma in the 7th, 6th, 7th. And what a player he's turned out to be for us. So I don't mind replenishing a bit of the defensive interior. I think we definitely need to look at that. Losing Milton Williams, we need to bring in some new guys into the fold, especially for the rotation that we've got. So yeah, Ty Robinson, I'm happy with that. We'll bring him in. As you said, we've got multiple picks here, so we can sort of just throw darts. What else have we got?
Tyler Barron's there.
Tyler Barnes still there, so I would like to pick him up. But now I'm thinking I've taken quite a lot of defensive players along the defensive line, but no, I like him, so I'm going to take him. We've got the pick right after that as well. Back-to-back picks. How about that? Jordan Hancock from Ohio State's there. Who else have we got? Safety. Craig Woodson. Jalen Lane. I quite like Jalen Lane for VT as well. That's another one of your boys, Phil. We've already taken someone
Malachi
there.
Moore.
Malachi Moore's another one that we've had. We've not had him in as a top 30, but I'm pretty sure we spoke to him at the combine or a private meeting, something like that. We've definitely spoken to that guy. Kobe King, the linebacker of Penn State, is also here, who's we've also had in the building. So Jackson Hawes at the tight end, who we spoke about a little bit earlier, is also on the board, but I don't see us taking 2 tight ends in this draft. Do you, Phil?
No.
Cody Simon is a decent linebacker as well from Ohio State. Jalen Travis, the tackle from Ohio State. Yeah, there's a lot of Howie's guys, or we'll say Howie's guys because they're being brought in for visits, are still on the board. Emory Jones Jr., the tackle from LSU. We spoke about him in a previous episode as well.
I wouldn't be. I like the idea. I mean, that's what I did with the mock for Gale. I took a developmental edge later on, and he Gale pretty like that. I think there's a good strong shout to go for a tackle, like a one that you can bring in that might, that can be trained up over a year.
Yeah, I took Malachi Moore because we need some depth at safety, and then as we discussed, I think we should take
Emory
a
Jones
developmental
Jr.
tackle. I think we'll go for Emory Jones Jr. from LSU, and that will round out our mock draft. Now PFF is going to absolutely scud us here. I'm pretty sure.
You actually picked most of the ones he scudded me for earlier, so.
It's like, oh, you could have had this guy instead of you take this guy. I'm like, well,
I don't know. The later round picks, D minuses, a couple of D minuses for Emory Jones Jr. Malachi Moore.
I don't think they can give you a D minus for a 5th round pick. Come on, PFF, get it together, man. But
they don't like the tight end a C grade for Fannin, but I feel like you said, he feels a little bit like Jordan Davis felt like on defense those years ago, where it's just like this guy has just got the stats for miles and looks like a special player. And I know there's some criticism of how he runs and he's a little bit clunky, but I'm not really worried about that in a tight end. You want a guy, I watch Travis Kelce play a lot of times, and he doesn't exactly look like a swan on the wall either. So, but I think I like the idea of bringing the guy in like that. We still don't know what's going to happen with Dallas Goedert, so that pick is definitely up in the air. But it feels very much like they're going to be targeting a tight end, and I feel like he keeps falling to us around 96, maybe a little bit later. Makes sense, really. But we've addressed a lot of the needs. We could have addressed more, but this is the beauty of the draft and not needing anyone in particular. The agony of choice becomes a lot greater. So I'm happy with it. What about you?
Yeah, I'm content with that. As I said, we're doing this exercise based on not trading up or down. I'm pretty sure we probably would have made some trades in this draft. As you said, some guys came off late in the first round. We possibly could have traded up, or maybe we could have traded back to Gray's able a little bit later, or addressed the edge need a little bit earlier. But it's so funny, the mocks, you can keep doing them and doing them and doing them. So we'll find out who we draft next Thursday. It'll be interesting. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to this draft. I always look forward to the draft. It's my time of year. It's the most fun part of the off season for me. as well as the sort of free agency frenzy, like the first couple of days during the tampering period of free agency. That and the draft are the best parts of the off season. OTAs doesn't really excite me that much, and training camp doesn't really excite me that much either. But I'm sure we'll get to all that as we get through the summer. All right, so I've spoke for quite some time now, a bit long enough. Thank you for listening, everybody. Phil, thank you for coming on the podcast with me. I appreciate someone to bounce off of, to talk about these prospects, about these athletes who will be on the draft next Thursday on the boards. Can't wait. Definitely going to be up watching it. So if you're on the WhatsApp group, hope you stay up as well, and we can talk about the draft as it develops. Maybe have a few whiskies as well, a few Loch Lomans. I'm sure I've got some of my 21 left. I'll maybe toast our new draft prospect in with a fabulous taste of 21-year-old whiskey. Phil, you've probably spanked that bottle already.
I think that was in the recycling about 6 months ago. No, I've got a nice bottle or two in the cupboard, and I've started displaying them in my wall that I'm redoing behind me now. Because I'm gonna get one of those helmet displays things for my BG 55 full size helmet. It's gonna go pride in place. If you can see the little stud that's there already, I'm just gonna put it there.
Oh, yeah.
So next podcast, hopefully you can see a nice BG and BG helmet. I've got me Shady signed Hall of Fame picture to go up, and this is something a gift from Gail and Prime at 4th and John, which was a Darius Slay Batman graphic. So yeah, I've got a few more things, and I feel like needs a bit of a refresh. Think of just having jerseys hung up behind me, so I want a bit more purposeful display. So
that's awesome, mate. You're putting me to shame.
This is definitely going to be a kid's bedroom in the next half a decade, so I'm just enjoying it while I can, mate.
Make use of it. Yep, definitely. I know how that feels. Believe me. I'll be number 4 on the way soon. So.
You're going to be in the shed before long, aren't you? Recording me.
Absolutely. I know. Tell me about it. Right. Better into podcast here. So again, thank you for listening. Check out the website for some of the stuff that we're getting up to this off season. And go Birds.
Go Birds.